Okay, Chair, if you're ready to start.
And yeah, that's great. I think everyone's in. So welcome everyone to the first remote licensing subcommittee, first subcommittee for a long time. So thank you all for being here. I know it's all a bit weird for people who have done this before, and possibly even more weird for the applicants here and representatives. Andy, do you want to go through sort of the welcoming bits that we need to go through? Oh no, we've done that. We've switched on the webcast, haven't we? So I will do introductions. So my name is Councillor Ben Garner. I'm chairing today's committee. And before I proceed further, I'd like to remind everyone that today's meeting is being streamed live on Leeds City Council's YouTube channel. Usually we would be a public committee where people could come to this call. Obviously, that's not available to the public at the moment, so people can and will be, hopefully, maybe just a couple watching on YouTube. And could I ask the other members of the subcommittee to introduce themselves, the other two elected members, please?
Thank you, Ben. Councillor Abigail Marshall-Cuttung, representing Little London Woodhouse and the City Centre.
Good morning, Billy Flynn, Councillor for Adlam Wharfdale Ward.
Thank you both. So I'd also like to say that just to confirm that this meeting, although it is remote, does meet the requirements of the council's constitution, and as I say, the part of that webcast is part of that. Items today will be fully discussed as they usually would be. Remote attendance requires a few slight changes as to how we'll manage the debate. So just as a bit of housekeeping for remote committees, can everyone mute the microphones unless they're invited to speak? Mainly to reduce disruption from background noise, just in case anything happens outside your house or inside your house. Can you keep your cameras on if possible during the whole hearing? And everyone will be invited to introduce themselves at the start of the hearing to make it clear to the public who will be involved in proceedings. And so just be patient, especially with this being the first remote subcommittee. Things may go wrong, but hopefully not. Could I invite officers to introduce yourselves, please, and then just mute yourselves after you've done that. So I'll start with Mary, and then just sort of organise yourselves around introducing yourselves, if you may.
Morning, Chair. Mary O'Shea, Legal Services, here to advise the committee.
Good morning, everyone. Matthew Nelson. I'm part of Entertainment Licensing.
Morning, Andy Booth from Governance Services, and I'll be the clerk to the subcommittee today.
Morning, John Grieve from Governance Services, and I'm supporting Andy Booth today.
Good morning, I'm Samantha Longfellow, Principal Licensing Officer, and I'm supporting Matthew Nelson today.
Thank you. We've got Harriet and Helen on the call more as and to make sure the webcast is going smoothly. Do you want to introduce yourself just for the sake of openness, especially as we're being webcast? Is that all right?
Yes, good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Harriet Spake, Governance Services.
Good morning, I'm Helen Doyle. I'm a training officer for Leeds City Council, just here to support the Leeds City Council staff and members.
Thank you. And finally, for introductions, there's the applicant and representative. So we've got Mr. Khalil and Mr. Jordan on the call. Do you want to introduce yourselves, please? Mr. Khalil, I think you were just on mute again, sorry. I think I'll stop. Yeah, I can see you lips moving, Mr. Khalil, but I think it might be on mute. We're not able to hear you. We still are.
Mr. Khalil, if you just tap your screen, Mr. Khalil, if you tap your screen, you'll see a button. There you
There
go.
we go.
Yes, yes. Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you. Thanks,
Hi.
Helen.
Yes. Hi, good morning. My name is Nawzad Khalil Ali. I'm the owner of 87 Domestic Street.
Well, welcome. And Mr. Jordan? Okay, I think we've got the same trouble, Mr. Jordan. If you are speaking, you're on mute. There we go.
Hello?
Hi there.
Yeah, sorry, that went on mute somehow. Robert Jordan representing the applicant.
Well, thank you, and welcome to you both. Again, just please bear with us. Usually, I mean, for the applicants, this process is sometimes scary enough, but this is particularly weird this morning. So please bear with us with everything that's going on with this remote committee. And there's no responsible authorities or objectors in attendance today. So with that, I'll just move to the main agenda, starting with item number 1. Andy.
Right, thank you, Chair. Under agenda item number 1, Councillor Garner, you were elected as Chair for today's hearing. Under agenda item 2, there are no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Under agenda item 3, there are no items today which require the exclusion of the press or public. Under agenda item number 4, there are no late items as such, but we did have some supplementary information which was submitted by the applicant. This has been circulated to members and published along with the agenda on the Council's website. Moving on to agenda item number 5, can I ask members if they've got any disclosable pecuniary interest to declare? No, so back over to you, Chair, thank you.
Thanks, Andy. So on to the main agenda item number 6, application for the grant of a premises licence at grocery store 87 Domestic Street, Holbeck. Could the legal advisor to the subcommittee outline the procedure for the hearing, Mary?
Thank you, Chair. The procedure for such applications is that the applicant addresses the committee first. Those who have made representations then address the committee. And then the applicant has the chance to respond to anything said in the verbal presentation. Representations were received from West Yorkshire Police and from the communities and public health teams of Leeds City Council as responsible authority. Neither the police or the communities and public health teams are in attendance today. The police have reached agreement with the applicant on their concerns as set out in Appendix C of the reports pack. In making its determination, the subcommittee will consider what is appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, the protection of children from harm. The regulations permit the subcommittee to set a time limit on presentations, providing the same time limit is applied to all parties. Our usual time limit is 15 minutes per party. Can I ask the chair if the subcommittee wish to impose a time limit, and if so, what time limit they are imposing?
I think Billy, Abigail, the usual 15 minutes, and there are no responsible authorities in attendance, so that's a good amount of time if members agree, and if Mr. Clear and Mr. Jordan were sort of planning on that time as well.
Agreed.
So the time limit of 15 minutes will apply to the applicant's presentation. Following the presentation, the subcommittee members may wish to ask questions. The time for questions to be asked and answered is in addition to that time limit. Can I just ask that the representative is content with 15 minutes? It's really up to 15 minutes if that's what you choose. Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, we're in agreement with all of that.
Thank you. Please note that cross-examination is not permitted in subcommittee. If any party feels there is a crucial question that needs to be asked and answered, please direct that request to the chair, who will determine whether or not the question should be put. Parties may request permission to call witnesses. Can I ask if Mr. Jordan, if you wish to call any witnesses today?
No.
Thank you. All the documents that have previously been submitted have been circulated to the subcommittee in advance. So we have the agenda pack and we also have the supplementary information. It would be helpful when those addressing the subcommittee are referring to documents to identify which document they are referring to. Additional documents may now only be tabled with the consent of all the parties. Are there any additional documents that the parties wish the subcommittee to consider today? Mr. Jordan?
Not from our side.
Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, there's no additional documents. The only thing that we received is the late item, which has already been circulated in advance of the hearing.
Thank you. Please note that the presentation is your only opportunity to address the subcommittee. There's no further right to sum up your case. So you need to make sure that you have said everything that you want to say and to have taken into account in your presentation. After the presentation and all the questions have been considered, the members will then consider whether they have all the information they need to make a decision. So once this point is reached, the subcommittee will meet separately to make a decision, and the decision will then be confirmed to all parties in writing within 5 working days of today. Can I ask if there are any representations about the procedure the subcommittee proposes to follow before we commence the hearing? Mr. Jordan, do you have any questions?
The only question is that it won't be decided today, so we don't have to wait for a decision. We'll get that in writing. Is that correct? Have I got that correct?
Yes, after you make your presentation and all the questions are put, members will then retire to consider if they have all the information they need or if they want to come back in and ask any additional questions. And then at that point, when they have sufficient information, they will retire again to make their decision, and you would then be informed within 5 working days. That's
okay,
the
thank you.
process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mary. So now the licensing officer, could you present the application, Matthew, would that be you?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Chair. So members are asked to consider an application for the grant of a premises licence made by Mr. Khalil for grocery store at 87 Domestic Street, Olbeck, Leeds, LS11 9NS. The premises is wishing to operate as a convenience store. The application is made for the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises only every day from 8 AM until 10 PM. The application has attracted 2 representations from responsible authorities. One of those representations is from West Yorkshire Police, and agreements have been reached with the authority, which can be found at Appendix C of the report. The other representation is from the Public Health team, and no agreement has been reached, and this matter remains outstanding for members' consideration. That is at Appendix D of the report, and that, Chair, is the application. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Mr. Cleal and or Mr. Jordan, could I now invite you to present your case? And as there's no responsible authorities in attendance, you take up to 15 minutes all as one block, and then we may have questions for you as members. Following that, as Mary outlined earlier, that won't affect your 15 minutes. So you have up to 15 minutes. Feel free to use it all or less than that. But Mr. Jordan or Mr. Khalil.
Okay. So it's a relatively small premises operating on, we believe, reasonable hours. Public health representation relates to all 4 licensing objectives. We don't think that there's been made regarding how this particular premises will undermine the licensing objectives. It seems that the area can be problematic, but the applicant is here to prove he won't add to any of the issues in that area. There's no mention in representation from public health that the conditions are inadequate. As regards Domestic Street, it's not in the managed approached area, although it is very close. So these the prostitutes, etc., should not be in Domestic Street, we understand, under the Leeds Managed Approach policy. We think the representations are fairly speculative and generalised, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence that any particular premises has caused issues. And I don't think there's anything in the representation that relates to this premises specifically. No issues have been raised regarding the applicant. Environmental health, as regards public nuisance, have not raised any issues. As regards crime and disorder, the police have agreed conditions. As we know, they're the main authorities as regards crime and disorder. Protection of children from harm, there's no child safeguarding or those that care for children individually have made representations, and there's been no representations, you understand, as regards public safety from the fire safety department or the emergency services. So there's a couple of quotes in the representation from public health as regards St Matthews. The applicant is aware of the St Matthews area and of the type of alcohol that is consumed in that area. That he won't be selling any of the high strength cider. So he has informed me he's quite happy for a condition to be imposed on the licence because he knows that area and wouldn't want to be selling the alcohol that they're attracted to, which is the high strength cider above 6% ABV. So he's happy for a condition that can be put down as a condition as that's what the street drinkers are attracted to. He's not interested in serving the street drinkers. And I won't go into the training program because that's all been sent in advance. So I don't want to really reiterate what we've sent in advance, but it is in the training program as regards street drinking and that problems occur from street drinkers. There's other off licences nearer to the managed approach and nearer to St Matthews, we understand. So if there are any issues from them, they should be dealt with. So the only thing which we would mention slightly different to what we put in is that we understand Leeds offer a system to check right to work. So the applicant, if he wants to employ anybody, will ask them to contact Leeds and prove their right to work. It seems to be a system that Leeds offer, which we weren't aware of when we submitted the documents. So that will be the procedure to clarify people have the right to work. The incident book will detail all the issues raised by the police, date, time, location, nature of the incident, summary of the incident, any antisocial behaviour, missions refusal, ejections from premises, and to whom the incident was reported, names and personal licence numbers of any staff involved or to whom the incident was reported, names and numbers of any police officers attending, the police incident NL crime number, and names and addresses of any witnesses and confirmation of whether there is CCTV footage of the incident. There'll be identification of any emergency services personnel who attend. So that is the agreement reached with police on the incident book, we understand. And we feel the training documents provided will meet concerns of public health and the area. The applicant is very difficult in booking courses to attend now, and the company we deal with, Night Training, are not getting enough people to attend their APLH course. So we've arranged an online course for the applicant he's been sent the details, so he will sit an online course without attending a day course. Normally we would send them on day courses for the APLH qualification, but that's proving difficult to get at the moment. So he is booked on this course. We booked him on with Night Training, and it'll be an online course that he will take when he's digested all the information they've sent to him. We're not sure that the representation for public health satisfies section 7.4 of the licensing policy for Leeds. Doesn't seem any evidence stacked up against this particular individual. And we feel with what we've sent in the training to deal with the issues in the area is sufficient, particularly since he's happy for no 6%, no beer, lager or cider above 6% ABV to be sold, and that can be put as a condition. I don't think I want to say any more on that because it's all in the the supporting document, so I don't see any point in repeating all that. I didn't put this application in myself. It was put in by another agent, and they've made a slight error on the name of the applicant. Khalil is his middle name and Ali is his surname. So his actual name on the passport is Nazwad Khalil Ali. So Ali is the surname. I must say I didn't put it in myself, but I picked up on that on the application. I think he can confirm his full name. I just wanted to point that out. And I think his address is number 5, not number 15, but I think he can confirm that, his home address. But there was another agent involved before me. But I think bearing in mind the training, etc., that we've sent in, the incident books report, refusals book, and the fact that police conditions are agreed and no other responsible authorities. And the most important people, obviously the residents, don't think there's been one objection for any residents, which we would say are the most important people here to object to a licence. So I don't really want to say any more on that because it's in that documents we sent in. So I don't see the point of going through the whole of the training programme because that's been sent in as supporting documents. I think that's it from me.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
Apologies to Mr. Ali then, rather than Mr. Khalil, just for the name confusion from the application form there. But thank you, Mr. Jordan, for alerting us to that and giving us that. So, do any of the members, Abigail, Billy, do you have any questions to Mr. Jordan or Mr. Ali, first of all?
Really just on the possibility of underage drinking. I've seen the late information that came in, but I just wondered what measures Mr. Ali would like to put in place to ensure there was no underage drinking in his shop or in the vicinity of his shop.
Yeah, well, it's a Challenge 25 policy, which has to be strictly adhered to. There's a policy within the training schedule that if a group of people come into the shop, so you have about 3 people come into the shop and they're obviously in the same group, and one comes to the till and produces ID that they're over 18, Mr. Ali is going to ask the whole group for ID to make sure it doesn't become a proxy sale. And obviously he'll keep an eye on the outside of the premises and around about the premises to see if there's any passing on of alcohol. And obviously the sign will be reminding people it's a criminal offence to supply alcohol to persons under 18. And also another one is if somebody's 15 comes in with their parents and clearly starts picking out the alcohol, then that person will have to produce ID that they're 18, even if the parents are buying the alcohol, because some parents don't really care sometimes. And then sometimes the teenagers are actually there picking out the alcohol, and the adults come to the till and just buy the alcohol. But he's on the ball for that as well. And that's the basis of it. There's a refusal book that's checked on a regular basis to make sure any staff are actually filling the refusal book out, and make sure that there would be some entries in that. And if there wasn't any entries for certain staff, that would raise an issue. But there should be, on most shifts, 1 or 2, I would say, refusals in that book. Instant book, obviously, if children are making a fuss outside, or there's a kerfuffle going on, and then to phone the police, obviously, if there's anything going on outside untoward. And of course, he's got his child sexual exploitation policy, where they look into adults, plying youngsters with drinks or food. So they've got that in place. He's got that in place. I think that basically covers the majority of that.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you. Abigail, have you got?
Yes, Mr. Jordan, I'd like to ask regarding the CCTV system in Appendix A on the M for prevention of crime and disorder. I note that the minimum number of days that your storage retention capacity for the CCTV is 31 days. What will be the maximum?
Oh, what for the CCTV?
For the storage, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to get the maintenance guy to. Normally, they sometimes go to. I wouldn't know. It's got to go to a minimum of 31 days. But sometimes they do go quite a bit longer nowadays. But it would be a minimum of 31 days. But whether it goes longer than that, I wouldn't know really. Wouldn't know. I think they've got to be stored for 31 days. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a question from me then. Just looking at the map of other licensed premises, and obviously the Public Health have put forward their objection with regards to St Matthew's Centre, which you put in a little bit more about a possible extra condition. So thank you for that, and for that sort of understanding of the problems there. Just on the map, there's a couple of other sort of licensed premises to the south. Kind of the same distance away from St Matthew's Centre and where these problems lie. Do you have, and possibly more of a question for Mr. Ali, do you have a relationship with the proprietors of those premises? If someone was refused several times from buying alcohol at, Holbeck News, for instance, or the Bargain Store or other licensed premises, would you speak to each other? I know that usually happens in sort of the busy city centre premises, but given the known problems around Holbeck and St Matthew's, is there any sort of informal networking between the proprietors? Sorry, Mr. Ellie, you might be on mute there. There we go.
Hi, yes. So the people who are refusing around the license, I will be selling them. I need to make sure they are safe to buy stuff, or they are not underage.
And if the question was more around if someone was trying to shop around, so if someone was refused from one of the premises down the road, would there be any informal sort of passing on of information?
I wouldn't be saving them, to be honest, and I would stay to report it, that the persons and the date, and yeah.
And that's on your register as set out in the information given. Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's fine. Anything else from members? Any other questions?
No, okay for me.
Well, thank you. And that's it from me as well. So thank you for that. So as set out earlier, the subcommittee will move into private session to deliberate on the application. Could I ask that all the parties, including the applicant and representative and the licensing officer, remain on the call? I think Andy will, I think the clerk will get you to remain on the call, and we'll go to a different sort of breakout room to deliberate, just in case we as members have any additional questions. And if there are additional questions, we'll all be brought back in again. Andy, could you just confirm that, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The subcommittee, legal advisor and myself will go into a separate breakout room now. The applicant and his representative and licensing officers will be placed in a waiting room. This shouldn't be for a period of no more than 10 minutes before we bring everybody back. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just double checking, Andy. Are we all back in the main session?
Yes, everybody's back
Excellent.
now, Chair.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for your patience there. And I realise I'm stuck in a dark room or looking at a dark screen isn't ideal. We just had a bit of discussion, and there's a couple of extra questions that we have for the applicant. If you're, of course, willing to answer. My one was on the high strength cider. So, Mr. Ellie or Mr. Jordan, either of you, you said about sort of putting a voluntary condition on and not selling high strength cider above 66% volume. 60 would be high strength. Well, even if that condition was or wasn't on, you sort of indicated you weren't going to be selling that and wouldn't be selling that anyway. Would that apply to similar high strength drinks that are prone to this kind of abuse?
Well, the applicant seems to realise what's going on down there at St Matthew's and what they're actually drinking, which is mainly the high strength cider, cheap cider, but also some lagers, certain lagers, high strength lagers. I'm not going to mention any names here, obviously, but I think we all know basically what they're drinking by the empty bottles probably that are strewn around. So he doesn't want to sell that anyway, because he said he didn't want to sell that. So he wouldn't be selling it even if the condition's not put on. He told me he didn't want that because it does bring in even if you don't sell that to people, if you've got it displayed in the shop, you will inevitably attract people like that. Who, if you haven't got it in the shop, you won't attract them. It's pretty, more or less, that's the way it is. So he won't be selling that. He told me he wouldn't be selling it. So.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Flynn, you had a question.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. It's for you, Mr. Jordan. You made a point during your presentation about the public health representation doesn't comply with, I think it was section 7.4 of the licensing objectives specified. I wonder if you could just give us a little bit more information on that. We've had a look in the meantime, and it wasn't absolutely clear what you meant. So,
well, I think 7.4 says that full details and full evidence that of the licensed premises, I think it says under that section. I mean, I may be wrong. It's just my interpretation that they haven't dealt with the full evidence of this premises or the full evidence, but it might well be contained in the, because I mean, public health know more about these LSOA zones than me, I will say. So I may be wrong, that may be addressed in those, because I haven't read every single bit of that. I've tried to read as much as I can upon it, but I think there doesn't seem any evidence against this particular application. I don't think this application's been addressed. They've not said, oh, this inadequate conditions or the operation of these premises will lead to this. But I was only my interpretation I was putting on it, really, I think.
I think that's so. I think you made the same point about other issues that they'd raised. Similarly, I think that it didn't specifically refer to this particular premises. I think was the point that you made.
I think the point that I was making is like the quotes are, it doesn't specifically relate to this premises, but I think given the training and everything, I hope he can address the issues.
Okay, thank you. Fine, that's fine, Mr. Jordan. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And any other questions from members? Well, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Ali. So thank you, everyone, for your attendance in the difficult first remote subcommittee. This concludes the business apart from the decision, and you'll be informed of the decision within 5 working days, as Mary outlined at the beginning. But thank you, everyone, for your attendance and patience and understanding in this difficult remote meeting. And have a lovely day, sunny day.
Yeah, well, thanks for the licensing's help on this. They've been very helpful because my internet access went down yesterday, believe it or not, on the computer. So, British Initiative, they were very helpful. And this is the first time we've been on Zoom, so you can probably tell. But yeah, okay.
That's good. No, I think it's worked well in the circumstances. So thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.